Welcome to Service Entitlements. Today we will learn about service entitlements. These are permissions granting access to specific BTP services, like a key to a locked room. For example, an entitlement for the SAP HANA service lets your application use its database. Understanding entitlements is your first step to effectively building and managing applications on SAP BTP. Think of entitlements as your BTP usage permissions. This means they define exactly which services you are allowed to use and how much of them. For example, an entitlement for the SAP HANA service grants you permission to create and use a HANA database. These permissions are the foundation for building and running your applications on the platform. They control what you can and cannot use. Think of them as permissions that grant your account access to specific BTP services. For example, an entitlement for the SAP HANA Cloud Service allows your account to create and use HANA databases. This ensures you only utilize services you are officially permitted to access. We will explore how to check and manage them. This means learning to view and control which services your project can access. For instance, you might verify your team has the SAP HANA Cloud Database service enabled for your application development. Understanding this ensures you efficiently use the right tools for your solutions. Service entitlements define your access to BTP services. Entitlements are your pre-approved usage rights. This means you have permission to use specific SAP BTP services up to a certain limit. For example, if you are entitled to 1 GB of the SAP HANA Cloud Service, you can provision databases within that allocation. These rights are automatically granted and ready for you to activate and use immediately. They define which BTP services you can access. This means your subscription grants permissions to use specific BTP services, like databases or AI tools. For example, if you have an entitlement for SAP HANA Cloud, you can create and manage HANA databases. Entitlements ensure you only use what you are authorized for, keeping your environment secure and compliant. They set limits on how much you can use. This means you get a specific amount of a service, like storage or processing power, that you cannot exceed. For example, your subscription might allow up to 50 GB of data storage. This ensures predictable resource consumption and cost control within your BTE environment. Based on your BTP contract agreement. This means your purchased subscriptions grant access to specific services and their quantities. For example, if your contract includes 1 GB of HANA Cloud, you can use exactly that amount. Thus, your entitlements are strictly defined by what you have officially paid for. Understanding entitlements is critical for SAP BTP governance. Prevent unexpected costs by setting usage limits. This means you control how much of each BTP service your team can consume, avoiding surprise bills. For example, limit development teams to 10 GB of cloud storage monthly. By defining these boundaries, you ensure predictable spending and financial governance. Ensure you only use what you are entitled to. This means using only the SAP BTP services and resources your company has purchased. For example, if entitled to 5 GB of HANA database, using 10 GB would violate this. Staying within entitlements prevents unexpected costs and compliance issues. Help manage resources efficiently. This means you control exactly what services each team can use and how much. For example, you can give the development team access to the SAP HANA database but not the analytics service. This prevents waste and ensures teams only use what they are approved for. Proper entitlements are fundamental to cost control and project success. Keep your BTP environment organized. This means assigning only the services and resources each team needs, avoiding clutter and confusion. For example, give your development team access to SAP Build apps, but not to analytics tools used by another department. This focused approach ensures efficient and secure operations across your entire BTE landscape. Locate your entitlements dashboard in the SAP BTP cockpit. Log into SAP BTP cockpit. This means accessing the main web interface where you manage your SAP BTP resources. For instance, a developer would open their browser and sign in to begin setting up a new application. This first step is essential to reach your entitlements and start working. Click on your global account. This means selecting the main container for your organization's SAP BTP resources. For example, if your company is Cloud Innovations, you would click on its specific global account name to proceed. This action is your first step to view and manage all available services and quotas. Look for entitlements in the left menu. This is where you see all services your company has purchased and can use on SAP BTP. For example, if you need to set up a new database, you first check here to confirm it is available. Always start here to manage your resources effectively. This shows all your available services. It is your central inventory of SAP BTP tools you are authorized to use. For instance, if your subscription includes analytics tools, they will be listed here for you to activate. Knowing your entitlements ensures you can fully utilize the platform's capabilities for your projects. Understanding the entitlements view in SAP BTP. See all services you are entitled to use. This means you can view every SAP BTP service your company has paid for and can access. For example, if your organization purchased the SAP HANA Cloud service, it will appear in this list. This centralized view ensures you quickly know what tools are available for your projects. View assigned quotas for each service. This means checking the specific resource limits allocated to your account for every SAP BTP service. For instance, you can see you have a quota for 50 GB of the HANA Cloud database. Monitoring these quotas helps you manage your resources effectively and avoid unexpected service interruptions. Check current usage levels. This shows how much of your subscribed services you are actively using. For example, if you have 50 GB of cloud storage, you can see whether you are using 10 or 48 GB. Monitoring this helps you avoid service interruptions and manage your resources effectively. Identify available capacity. This means checking how much of each BTP service your company has purchased and can use right now. For example, if you have 10 GB of HANA database memory, you verify this limit isn't exceeded before starting a new project. Knowing your capacity ensures you can reliably plan and deploy your applications without unexpected interruptions. Global account versus sub-account entitlements. Global account total entitlements from your contract. This means your entire company's purchased SAP services are pooled here. For example, if you bought 100 gigabytes of HANA database, that total is managed at this level. These resources are then distributed to your various projects and teams. Sub-account portion assigned to specific projects. This means you divide your global accounts resources into smaller, dedicated sections for individual initiatives. For example, one sub-account could be allocated to your HR analytics project, ensuring it has its own set of services and quotas. This structure keeps each project's resources organized and contained. You distribute global entitlements to sub-accounts. This means taking the total service quotas available in your global account and allocating specific portions to individual sub-accounts for their use. For instance, assign 2 gigabytes of the HANA Cloud quota from your global account to your development sub-account. This ensures each project has the dedicated resources it needs to operate effectively. Think of it as dividing a pizza into slices. Your global account is the whole pizza, representing all your available services. Sub-accounts get slices, specific service portions. For example, assign 3 gigabytes of HANA Cloud to a development sub-account, 7 gigabytes to production. This ensures each project gets the resources it needs without overlap. Check your available quotas in SAP BTP. In Entitlements view, find Assigned Quota column. This shows how much of each service you are allowed to use. For example, if you see 5 for application runtime, you can deploy up to 5 applications. Always check this before adding new services to avoid exceeding your limits. This shows maximum you can use for each service. It means your subscription sets a hard limit for every SAP BTP service. For example, your HANA database might be capped at 256 gigabytes. You cannot exceed this. Always monitor these quotas to ensure your applications have the resources they need to run properly. Compare with consumed quota to see usage. This means you look at how much quota you have already used versus what you have left. For example, if you have 10 gigabytes total and used 3 gigabytes, you see you have 7 gigabytes remaining. This helps you manage your resources effectively. Green indicators show available capacity. This means you have remaining resources to deploy services or applications. For example, if your quota dashboard shows green for memory, you can still launch new apps using that memory. Always monitor these to ensure you do not exceed your limits. Monitoring your usage on the SAP Business Technology Platform. Watch the consumed quota column regularly. This means you check how much of your allocated resources you have used, just like tracking data on your phone. For example, if your plan includes 10 gigabytes of storage, this column shows if you are nearing that limit. Consistently monitoring this helps you avoid service interruptions and manage your budget effectively. Set up alerts for approaching limits. This means you configure notifications to warn you before you fully consume resources like memory or data storage. For example, if your application has a 10 gigabytes database limit, set an alert at 8 gigabytes so you can act before hitting capacity. This proactive step ensures continuous operation without unexpected service interruptions. Plan ahead for busy periods. This means anticipating times when your SAP BTP resource consumption will increase. For instance, an e-commerce company should prepare for higher usage during a holiday sale to avoid service interruptions. Proactive planning ensures your applications run smoothly when demand is highest. Regular monitoring prevents surprises. This means checking your resource consumption often to avoid unexpected costs or service interruptions. For example, if you track your monthly cloud storage usage, you can add more capacity before running out and halting operations. Staying proactive ensures your business processes run smoothly. What happens when you reach your system limits? Some services may stop working. This means if your application hits its resource cap, like memory or API calls, it cannot function until limits reset or you upgrade. For example, a mobile app using SAP BTP might fail to fetch data if API call limits are exceeded. Always monitor usage to avoid disruptions. You might see error messages. This means the system blocks further action because a usage threshold was crossed, like hitting a data storage cap. For example, trying to upload a file when your storage quota is full triggers an error. Always monitor your resource consumption to avoid these disruptions. New resources cannot be created. This means your SAP BTP account has hit its maximum allowed services or applications. For example, if your quota allows 5 cloud applications, you cannot deploy a 6th. This ensures you stay within your subscribed capacity and avoid unexpected costs. You will need to request more entitlements. This means asking SAP to increase your resource allowance, like upgrading your mobile data plan when you have used your monthly limit. For instance, if your application runs out of memory, you'd request additional memory entitlements. Staying within limits ensures your solutions operate smoothly without interruption. Assigning entitlements to sub-accounts in SAP BTP. Go to your global account entitlements. This means accessing the central area where all available SAP BTP services are listed for your organization. For example, if you need to use the SAP HANA Cloud service, you first check here to see if it is available. This initial step ensures you can proceed with assigning the right services to your sub-accounts. Click Configure Entitlements. This lets you grant specific services or quotas to your sub-account, much like assigning tools to a team. For instance, to enable a mobile app, you'd allocate the mobile services entitlement here. This action is essential for activating capabilities in your sub-account. Select sub-account from drop-down. This means choosing the specific project environment where you want to add service access. For instance, when setting up a new HR application, you would pick its dedicated sub-account to grant it database permissions. This simple step ensures your services are correctly assigned. Assign quotas to each service needed. This means specifying how much of each BTP service your sub-account can use, like setting limits for cloud resources. For example, if building an app needing 1 GB database storage, assign exactly that quota. Proper quota assignment ensures your applications have the resources they require to run successfully. Best practices for entitlement management. Regularly review your usage patterns. This means periodically checking which services you are actively using versus those you are paying for but not utilizing. For example, if you provisioned machine learning APIs but your developers aren't using them, you can remove that entitlement. This simple habit ensures you only pay for what you actually need, optimizing costs effectively. Assign only what each sub-account needs. This means giving each sub-account access solely to the services and resources essential for its specific tasks. For instance, a development sub-account should have access to development tools, but not production data. This focused approach ensures security and efficient resource use, preventing unnecessary access or waste. Keep some buffer for unexpected needs. This means always reserving a small portion of your available service quota for urgent, unplanned projects. For example, if a department suddenly needs a new development environment, your buffer allows you to grant it immediately without disrupting other services. This proactive approach ensures business continuity and agility. Document your entitlement strategy. This means clearly writing down which services each team can access and why. For example, your development team gets the SAP HANA Cloud service, but your sales team does not. This creates a clear reference that prevents confusion and ensures resources are used correctly and securely. Quick recap: key points. Entitlements is equal to your usage permissions. This means your subscription grants access to specific BTP services and resources. For example, if you have an entitlement for the SAP HANA Cloud service, you are permitted to provision and use a HANA database instance. Always check your entitlements to understand what you can deploy. Check them in BTP Cockpit. This means using the central web interface to view and manage your cloud services and applications. For example, after deploying an app, you verify its status and resource usage there. Always use the cockpit to keep track of your solutions. Monitor usage to avoid limits. This means regularly checking your SAP BTP resource consumption to prevent exceeding your allocated quotas, which could disrupt services. For example, if your application's memory usage nears its cap, you might scale it down or optimize code to avoid hitting the limit and causing downtime. Staying within limits ensures smooth and reliable operation of your solutions. Assign wisely to sub-accounts. This means organizing your BTP resources into logical groups for better management and security. For example, create separate sub-accounts for development, testing, and production environments. This structure helps control access and track costs effectively, ensuring a clear and secure project workflow. You are ready to manage entitlements. You now understand service entitlements. This means you know what services and resources your organization is allowed to use on SAP BTP. For example, if you have an entitlement for the SAP HANA Cloud service, you can provision a database instance but not a data analytics tool. This foundational knowledge is essential for managing your cloud resources effectively. You can check your available quotas. This means you can see how much of each BTP service, like the Cloud Foundry runtime, your subscription allows you to use. For example, you can verify you have enough memory available to deploy a new application. This visibility is essential for planning and managing your resources effectively. You know how to monitor usage. This means you can check how much of your subscribed services and applications are actually being consumed on SAP BTP. For instance, you might track the data storage used by a development team's applications each month. This visibility is essential for effective cost management and resource planning. You are ready to explore BTP services safely. This means you can now assign and control access to different SAP BTP capabilities without risking system misuse. For example, you could grant your development team trial access to SAP HANA while restricting production access. This foundational skill lets you confidently manage your BTP environment as you grow.